Poor unfortunate souls in pain, in need. This one longing to be thinner, that one wants to get the girl, and do I help them? Yes, indeed. Those poor unfortunate souls, so sad, so true. They come flocking to my cauldron crying, "Spells, Ursula, please," and I help them. Yes, I do.
So prepare for a chance of a lifetime. Be prepared for sensational news. A shining new era is tiptoeing nearer.
And where do we feature?
Just listen to teacher. I know it sounds sordid, but you'll be rewarded when at last I am given my dues. And injustice deliciously square. Be prepared. Beata Maria, you know I am a righteous man. Of my virtue I am justly proud. Beata Maria, you know I'm so much purer than the common vulgar, weak, licentious crowd. Then tell me, Maria, why I see her dancing there, why her smoldering eyes still scorch my soul. I feel her, I see her, the sun caught in her raven hair is blazing in me out of all control. Like fire, hellfire, this fire in my skin, this burning desire is turning me to sin.
No one's slick as Gaston, no one's quick as Gaston, no one's neck's as incredibly thick as Gaston.
For there's no one in town half as manly, perfect, a pure paragon.
You can ask any Tom, Dick, or Stanley, and they'll tell ya whose team they prefer to be on. No one's been like Gaston, a kingpin like Gaston. No one's got a swell cleft in his chin like Gaston.
As a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating.
My, what a guy, that Gaston! Mother knows best. Listen to your mother. It's a scary world out there. Mother knows best. One way or another, something will go wrong, I swear. Ruffians, thugs, poison ivy, quicksand, cannibals and snakes, the plague. Yes, also large bugs, men with pointy teeth, and stop, no more. You'll just upset me. Mother's right here. Mother will protect you. Darling, here's what I suggest. Skip the drama, stay with Mama. Mother knows best.
Yes. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Transformation Central. Transformation Central. Transformation Central. Transformation Central. Transmogrification Central. Can you feel it? You're changing, you're changing, you're changing, alright. I hope you're satisfied. But if you ain't, don't blame me. You can blame my friends on the other side. But you got what you wanted.
But you lost what you had. So Ali turns out to be merely Aladdin. Just a con, need I go on? Take it from me.
His personality flaws give me adequate cause
To send him packing on a one-way trip, so his prospects take a terminal dip.
his assets frozen.
The venue chosen is the ends of the earth will be.
So long, ex-prince Ali. Friends on the other side.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 50th episode of Goots' Disney Pod. I'm your host, Ray Goots. I can't believe we made it to 50 episodes. We're up to Tangled, 2010. It's a whole new decade. And with me today is Lori Palminteri. Lori, how are you?
I'm all right. How about you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Just so everybody knows, I recorded this on the 18th. We're all still in quarantine. Are you still in quarantine?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm still in quarantine. Like you, I'm a comedian, so a lot of my work has been compromised / non-existent. I do some part-time work, remotely, but I do have a car, so I get out a little bit. I get out of the hood and out to the beach and stuff like that.
Oh, you have a car.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you're that's a big deal. Okay, a lot of
That's like a big deal for people who lives in New York, especially comedians. They're like, "Wow, you must be killing it." I'm like, "Not really, though." What a low bar we have for success here as New York comedians.
Yeah, like, oh my God, you have a car. So, are you doing more road gigs now? Now that the pandemic is like, I don't know, we're just kind of pretending it's over. Are you doing more road work?
I wish I had more. I have a couple this week that are both outdoor gigs, which is like the first time in forever I've had 2 gigs in the same week. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, no, I would love more work to start trickling in, but everything's kind of outdoor shows and it's still nice out now, but our outdoor window is going to soon come to a close.
Yeah, I have a feeling the outdoor, like Halloween is going to be like the big, that weekend's going to be the last big weekend of outdoor shows. And the next week, I think everything like shut down once we get to November. Unless like we have an Indian summer.
It lasts that long. It really depends on the weather. That October can swing either way, weather-wise, you know.
I know. I feel like people are still going to do things just to pretend like Halloween's normal. So I feel like you could still book comedy shows around Halloween.
And you're a big Halloween guy.
Oh yeah, I had Halloween shows last year. I decorate the house for Halloween. I do. This is like my favorite time of year. This is like my Christmas season. You know.
I love Halloween too. Last year I went as the bride from Kill Bill, Uma Thurman. I got like a yellow jumpsuit and I blood stained it.
Oh, so you had the bride outfit. You didn't have the yellow. I pictured the yellow track outfit.
I had the yellow track outfit.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I blood stained it. I put like all fake blood all over it. Yeah, that was a fun one because it was also a really comfortable costume.
Yeah, that is a really cool. Yeah, that I could see that. Yeah, and that's cool. That's cool. I don't dress up for Halloween. So I'm so big in Halloween, but I don't dress up. But I do everything else. I started having parties 2 years ago. I decorate the house. I have horror movies in my window. I'm like really I actually.
Astoria, we both live in Astoria. Astoria in general is kind of a really big Halloween neighborhood. Like even where I am too, people really go all out decoration wise. Even I started putting decorations in my window. I felt like I owed it to the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, there was a toys. Do you ever go to Steinway?
Not really. I'm on the other part of Astoria, so I don't go that way a lot.
Well, the Lucille Robertson Steinway used to be a giant toy store called Valco. And on Halloween, they would have a giant display of all the masks, like all these like rubber masks. And it would freak me out as a kid. I wouldn't want to walk by the store at night. But like they would have masks and then they would have like Frankenstein costume stuff. It would be every Halloween. And it was the coolest fucking thing. Like if it was still around, people would freak out how cool the display was. But then they went under and now it's a Lucille Roberts, which I hate. I'm still waiting. There's still part of me that if they ever went under the Lucille Roberts, they'd be like, yes, because like it was such.
And shake your fist every time.
Yeah, that's what you get for getting rid of Valco. I think they bought the building Lucille Roberts, and they forced this like really cool toy store out. But I would just be celebrating it. And when I was a kid, I don't know how it was. Did you grow up on Long Island? Am I just imagining?
I grew up on Long Island.
Okay. When I was a kid, the toy stores were weird because the first floor would be toys and the second floor would be like household shit. So it would be like you would buy detergent and like rubber gloves and what's that? Ajax on like the basement. But in the first floor would be old toys. Was that like that on Long Island?
Not really. No, you kind of had your handful of like small independent toy stores that were, pretty tiny in like strip malls or whatever, and then you had the big Toys R Us or whatnot, and that was that's about it. And the little mom and pop stores, they slowly started to disappear And I guess there are a few still around, but unfortunately, those small business guys, I can't believe Toys R Us closed when they shut down.
Yeah, that was.
And I love Toys R Us in Times Square. I used to tell everybody, like any tourists that would come in, I'd be like, no, go to the Toys R Us. Even like adults, they'd be like, I don't want to go to the Toys R Us. And I'm like, no, it's really sick. I'm like, you really should go there.
Yeah, that was when, I mean, now it's so funny because now it's going to be like, when I started working at Carol, I started working there in 2003. And that was when Times Square was like super safe. 2003 to like, I think up until January, and now it's gone again. But that's almost like Times Square was like almost like a movie set. Like it was like it was like Disney World, and especially like around 2006, 2007, it was super like that when the M&M stores just opened up. So, but that Toys R Us, didn't they have a Ferris wheel?
Yeah, the Ferris wheel had a giant mechanical T-Rex, like a big Lego display, a big Barbie house. They had something. It was just a cool place. It really was just like you walked in, you felt like you were transformed to this childhood wonderland.
Yeah,
like Willy Wonka section. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't believe that store is gone and the M&M store is still around.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy to me. Like I haven't been to Manhattan. Have you been to Manhattan since this started? I haven't been to Manhattan since March.
I've been in like 3 times, but I didn't take this. I haven't been in the subway since March. 2 times I took a car into somebody's place, and 1 time I drove in to do stand-up in Central Park.
Oh, okay. So you haven't been to Midtown, right?
No.
Okay, I haven't been
passing through. Yeah.
But when I used to go perform with our Broadway at Caroline's, I would walk by the M&M store, and it was always mobbed. And one time I walked in because my friend's kid wanted to go in, and I thought like maybe they have like special M&Ms, like I don't know, like sriracha M&Ms or something like some crazy M&M, like M&M steak or I don't know, or M&M fried chicken, or I just thought like they'd have. It's literally just the M&Ms you can get at Walmart.
Yeah.
It's little or Kmart. There's no, and like there's just like M&M pillows and stuff, like a different M&M. Like
it is weird that that the people love it. They just love it.
I know.
I don't know. Since this is your Disney podcast, do you remember the Disney store on 5th Avenue? It was up by like 5th and 56th, maybe.
Yes, and there was also a Warner Brothers store around there.
Yeah, that Disney store was so much better than the one that's now existing at Times Square, because it was 3 different levels. And like the main level was, I think, kind of just like whatever kind of generic stuff. The middle level was more kid stuff, but then the 3rd tier was like all of this like art and collectibles, and it was dope as hell. Like I was so sad that they didn't have that anymore in the new one. I was like, oh man, I really missed that section.
That was good. The other one I liked was in the Roosevelt Fields Mall. They had a good Disney store and a good WB store in the Roosevelt Fields Mall. Did you go to Roosevelt Field Mall growing up in Long Island?
Yeah, I would go there, but I live further east, so that was kind of a hike for us. So we didn't go to that mall too often. It's also so big. I feel like I always got lost in that mall, like every single time.
When in the 90s I knew the layout because that would be the mall we would drive to. I used to know. I could tell you, like, if you shoved me in there right now, if you put me in a time machine, like we have to get to the WB store, I'd be like, I got this. I would like find it in like 3 seconds. And I also know where the eBay Games is and the Suncoast. I'd find if you shut like it's funny. It's funny. I know Long Island better in the 90s than I do right now. I couldn't tell you where anything is right now, but I know a lot of like we used to go there every weekend. Lori, how long have you been doing stand up?
10 years. I'm a decade into this.
Wow. 10 years.
I know. I started at 20 when I was in college, so I was pretty young when I started, and I got hook, line, and synced into this mess.
Wait, you were only in college? Did I meet? When did we? I can't remember meeting you. I feel like I said this to some other people that have done the podcast. There's some people I just feel like have always been around. Like you just wake up one day and like that person's been around for like 17 years in the scene. And
well, that's kind of how the New York scene is a little bit, in the sense where like everybody's kind of running around doing a lot of mics, and I especially am kind of an introverted person. Like it's pretty rare that I go out of my way to talk to people, which like is a terrible way to be if you're in entertainment. Networking and putting yourself out there is so important, but I'm way more likely to like look down and not look up at people, especially back then. So I think like we had seen each other open mics and stuff, and kind of, but we never like.
Did you perform? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Were you at Brokerage when Brian Kennedy was there?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I met you during
We,
that
we
era.
probably like officially spoke then, but we
Yeah,
probably had seen each other a bunch of times, and both
yeah.
of us were like too shy to talk to each other.
Yeah, I especially when I first started going out Long Island, because the only person I knew was Brian Kennedy, and he introduced me like Dan Barry and Dennis Rooney, and then I got to know John Truson more. But I would just go out there when Brian Kennedy would tell me to go out there because I worked with him at Caroline's. Like,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I was nervous. And what made you get into stand up?
I was originally a journalist major in college, and I decided that I hated that. I always wanted to be a writer, like since I was a kid, and I just kind of figured journalism was kind of, the most feasible way you could make a living as a writer. And then I became editor of my school paper, and I decided that I hated it, and I had no desire to be a journalist whatsoever. And then I was like, all right, I was like, scratch, like, let's, wipe away the dry erase board and be like, all right, well, what would be your dream job in the most, like, idealistic dream world? And I was like, easy, screenwriter. I want to be a sitcom writer. I want to write screenplays. So at that point, it was like, well, why don't you try to do this? And then I started doing a bunch of research, and it seemed like every, sitcom writer either it was a stand-up or previously was a stand-up. And growing up on Long Island, it was an hour from New York City, the mecca of stand-up comedy. So I was like, well, if you want to do this, you might as well try doing your hand at this, which was kind of a big step for me because I was a very, very shy kid. I guess I'm still pretty shy. But then you got, as you get the bug, and all of a sudden that was it. I just started doing it all the time.
Yeah, yeah, it's just there's nothing like it. And aren't you glad, looking at everything that's been going on the past few years, aren't you glad you didn't do journalism? Are you glad?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. That was the right call, not doing journalism. And I get, maybe you feel this way now. I mean, obviously, like, I've lost a decent amount of my income because I work part-time and freelance. I haven't been getting any unemployment benefits. So I'm in this like really
that sucks.
bad in between position, and I'm like freaking out quite a bit. And some days I just rue the day that I became a comedian. I'm like, why did I do this and put myself in this like ridiculously non-essential like position? But then I know people who have had great jobs and also lost it in this pandemic. So it's like, oh yeah, you could have done something safe or whatever and still lost your job and still been in this exact position you are in right now.
Yeah.
At least, like for the last 10 years I've been doing something that I love doing, and feels fulfilling creatively.
Yeah, I at the beginning I didn't really get annoyed because I'm like, look, this is literally happening to everybody. So like I didn't, like, a lot of comics I know were like, had like not breakdowns but almost were like freaking out a lot. Like I talked to them on the phone, and they were like, they sound like they were trying to not collapse on the phone conversation.
Right.
And I was just like, look, it's nothing that we did. It's not like the world came together and said, oh, you know what, Ray Goots fucking sucks. Don't book him. But now I'm starting to get annoyed because I kind of feel like politicians are making it harder. Like, like opening up the schools or not giving us the 600 anymore. I kind of feel like now it's like, well, now you're putting us all in a position where we're almost destined to fail. The way your position you're putting us in, don't go out. You can't reopen comic clubs. You can't. But also, we're not going to give you any money. But right. You can't go out and pursue. So now I'm getting a little annoyed. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, it is what it is. And if I have to flee to the woods and live like a zombie movie, I'll do it. Like whatever.
Right. Yeah, it'll come back, but New York is definitely going into a cultural dark age, I think, for a little while.
I think Manhattan's done. I really do. I don't think Astoria's done, or Queens.
No, it's still nice. So we hear people out, and I go, no, my neighborhood's nice, and everybody's like, look, I live right by the park, and some people wear masks outside, some people don't. Everybody wears masks when I go into stores. I haven't seen a single argument or like any sort of like, not violence, but just like people being rude to each other. I have not seen it in my neighborhood. I know it's existing. I've seen it elsewhere, but where I live is like it's been a social like a successful social experiment.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen here in Astoria or Brooklyn. I don't know how it is in. Have you seen anything like that on Long Island or not really?
Not really, but for where I'm from Long Island, they're more conservative. So like, there's just a lot. I mean, there's a lot of political talk, but I haven't really seen any aggression firsthand. But I know that people do get feisty when they get into their political talks.
Hmm. Oh yeah, the political talks, but like nobody like freaks out. Like, so whether you see these videos, people are angry at other people for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, and you don't really see that here. It's kind of chill. But I do think like, did you read that thing that James Altucher wrote?
The one about New York being dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did read it.
I mean, some of the points I was like, okay, whatever. But then when he said the bandwidth thing, where he's like, you don't need to have an office in Manhattan anymore. You can do all your work at home.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought like that's a good point. Like my Monday show that I used to have, I gotta be honest, I did nothing really to promote it. I'll say that right now. The majority of the people there were after work walk-ins that just wanted to do something after work. And
right.
And they would just go to Caroline's no matter what. I mean, it could have been me, or it could have been Larry the Cable Guy. It could have been anybody, and they would just walk in. And I think with that gone, that's going to affect the bar scene, the comedy scene.
Oh yeah, it's going to affect everything.
Yeah.
I agree with him that the New York we knew 6 months ago is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think New York always comes back, and I think maybe our age we're a little bit like paranoid because we haven't seen New York come and go, and how it does. Like where if you talk to comedy vet who's been like around longer, they're like, no, this like does happen, but I do think it's going to be like years before. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be years.
Well, I don't think you're going to see like thousands of people in like a 5-block radius in Midtown all working. I don't think that you're going to see that. And there's like a restaurant where that brings in like a couple of $1,000s a day just based off lunch. You're not going to see that. But I think, places like QED or even Governors will do better because I think, if you work at home in Long Island, you don't have to commute in the city anymore.
Yeah.
If you do go to a comedy show or a play or music, you'll go out in Long Island before you go to Manhattan, unless it's someone really big.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the places, I guess, like Long Island, maybe Astoria, which doesn't really have a big comedy scene, even though it's filled with great comics who live here. But even Jersey, Westchester, those places all have this tremendous opportunity to capitalize on like the offshoots of New York City comedy. It will be kind of interesting to see how that plays out, and if they're aware of how much how much opportunity they might have.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm starting to do more comedy out in Astoria because I kind of think Manhattan's done, and also just the rents. I mean, you can't afford to even take a chance at Manhattan at this point. Like, who's going to want to open up a new business and like just lose millions? No one goes to a business proposition like, hey, I want to open a comedy club. We're going to lose millions for the first 5 years, but that sixth year, we are gonna make thousands.
Right. So. Yeah, but I'm also just genuinely, I mean, I probably would go in the subway during the day, but I wouldn't go in the subway at night. I mean, they're like, the violence is up, the stabbings, and there's like a lot of slashing of women across the face and stuff like that, like in daylight too. And it's, I'm like, I don't know that I would step on a subway at night right now. I think I'd be afraid.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would go to Midtown. I don't know if I would want to go to Times Square or 53rd Street area. I would feel comfortable around where the Strip is or where Stand Up New York is. But I don't know if I would be comfortable in Midtown anymore. I think I that's where the majority of the problems are.
Yeah, big time junkies and stuff. Yeah, it's really sad. Honestly, it's heartbreaking. It like weighs on my heart like all the time.
Yeah, it does. It does too.
It's like looking at an ex that you're still in love with, that you're broken up with, and you're seeing them like spiral into the deep end. And not only is there nothing you could do, they don't want you around. Like, you just have to watch them like kill themselves.
And you don't even want to listen. Like, there's so many business owners who are like kind of have their head in the sand, like, oh, it's definitely going to come back better than ever. And it's like, look, I'm not going to be losing all my entire life savings. You are. So maybe come up with but you still need to try to talk to people And you're like, I just want you to be prepared for the worst, because if you're not prepared for the worst, you're going to lose all your money. You know what I mean? And they don't want to listen to it. It's like,
I already lost all my money, so.
But it did happen. Yeah, it did happen really fast. January and February were like, I mean, my last show was at government. I mean, I've done QED, but my last show people was at Governor's, and it was a Thursday when they said 50% capacity. And I said to James, "Do you think you're gonna have to close?" He goes, "I'll never close. I'm never gonna close. We're gonna keep going no matter what. It's gonna be great, kid. I'll see you," because I had another spot like in a week or so. I'll see you next week. And then like he was close 2 days later.
Yeah, it is ridiculous that they're starting to crack down on outdoor shows, and I just don't understand it. I'm like, I don't understand anything anymore.
You know what? I think they know stuff they don't want to tell us. And the reason why they don't want to tell us is because the government hasn't come up with a plan to give us money. But I think like Cuomo really wants to. I think somebody in the government wants to come out and be like, listen, honestly, it's really worse than we were telling you, and we need you just to sit at home until February. But they can't say that now because there's no money coming in, and everyone's going to lose, and there's no plan to save businesses. So they kind of like, always feel like they're tiptoeing around that. But then like, why reopen this? I don't know. But I just feel like someone in the government wants to say, like, look, to be honest with you, this is going to get really fucking bad. So if you could just sit in your room and not do anything until March, it'd be fucking great. But there's just no money to give us.
People are really going to go crazy.
Yeah, people would riot. Like, well, is there any money? Well, we haven't figured out the money part yet.
Something. I don't even know what it's going to be, but it'll be something.
Oh, yeah. The people are going to riot, definitely. So let's talk about your more cheerful times. Lori, back in the day when you had hope as a child, what was your life like? How was your childhood?
My childhood was good. I was like I was really late bloomer. I was a really tiny, like runtish child, who looked malnourished at all times.
Okay.
I wasn't. I just looked it. And I was a big Disney fanatic, but I also loved like Jaws and Jurassic Park were two of my favorites. But among like Disney princess movies as well.
Okay.
Which is funny because then I became a tomboy like a little bit later, and I was like full blown tomboy. Hung out with old boys, played sports all the time. But yeah, I used to collect the Disney Globe. I still had a few of them, but like those giant Disney globes. I had my nice little Disney collection.
Oh, like snow globes?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was a big Disney nerd.
And what were some of your favorite Disney movies as a kid?
I guess Beauty and the Beast was probably my favorite of all time, but all of them. I mean, Jungle Book, Cinderella, they're all so good. And I've rewatched a lot of them in this quarantine, especially because my sister, she has 2 kids. She gave me her Disney Plus password, so I just was like going through all of them as well. And I was like, wow, these really hold up. Most of these are really good.
Yeah, doing this podcast, it was so interesting to, because I think everybody thinks princesses when you tell them about a Disney movie,
right.
And every time they make a parody of a Disney film, it's a princess in a castle.
Yeah.
And then like people forget, from Sleeping Beauty and Little Mermaid, they didn't do a single fucking princess movie for 30 years. Mm-hmm. They did everything else, but so every episode has been so different because, when you're talking about Oliver and Company, I mean, Oliver and Company, you're talking about New York. You talk about Fox and the Hound, you're talking about like hunting in the South because it takes place in the South. And when you talk about Mulan, you talk about China. There's so many. Every movie is so different from one another, and I don't think people really realize that until they actually sit down and watch them. And and you're right that some of the ones from the 50s and the 60s feel like they were made like last week.
Yeah, and those ones like Sleeping Beauty is a beautiful movie. I mean, like visually, it's like the most stunning painting you've ever seen in your life. Every single image of it. And like Sleeping Beauty is like okay, I would say, but visually that movie is a complete masterpiece.
Yeah,
I'm in awe of how pretty it is.
I saw it on DVD and I was like, this movie's not that great. And then when I rewatched it for this podcast, I watched it on I think whatever the Disney Plus, I think it's a Blu-ray HD. And once you see that movie in HD, you're like, holy shit, this is a fucking amazing thing to look at. Like, they put so much work.
It's truly a work of art. It's like a masterpiece work of art, artistically and animation-wise.
It's just, it's fucking insane. Lori, before we get into Tangled, I want to play a game with you that I've never played with anyone else in this podcast. It's called "I'm Gonna Kill You." No, I'm joking. It's because this is the 50th episode, and this is the 50th movie they made. I have the list of the first 50 animated movies, and I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna name one. I'm gonna name them, and you tell me if you've seen them or not. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. I figured this would be cool to do because it's the 50th episode. So we're gonna start. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Of course. Classic.
Okay. Great. Pinocchio.
Yes.
Okay. Fantasia.
Oh yes, love it.
Okay. Dumbo.
Love it also. That
Okay.
song in Dumbo with the mother. If you don't cry during that song, like you might not have a soul. I cry every single time.
It's such a great movie. These first five are like, it's just amazing that this was their first five right out the gate. Bambi.
Yes.
Okay. This is where it gets weird. Saludos amigos.
I think so, but not for a very long time.
Okay. The Three Caballeros.
I watched that recently and maybe never laughed so hard in my life.
Oh, what'd you like about that one?
I don't know. It was just so ridiculous. It's like so racist, but like in an innocent way, if that makes sense. And it doesn't really make any sense. Like I'm like, does this movie make any sense whatsoever?
Well, I
It's
feel
like
like
Donald Duck is just like corny as fuck in it. Like it's such a weird movie. But it's
I feel
funny.
like they were on drugs making that movie.
Yeah, I laughed so hard watching that movie.
That was a great one. Okay, Make Mine Music.
No.
Okay, that's not even on Disney Plus, so you know they really don't believe it. They believe in it. They're like, don't put that on Disney Plus. Fun and Fancy Free.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Melody Time.
Yes.
Okay, that one's pretty bad. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yes. I used to watch that all the time as a kid.
That one's actually Dan Barry. I actually had to go to Long Island to do that episode. That's back when we could travel. I did that with Dan Barry. Cinderella.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
All right. Peter Pan.
Oh yeah, fine. Also, that might have been my favorite as a kid too.
Cool. This one was my favorite. This next one coming up. Lady and the Tramp.
Yes.
All right.
Although I haven't seen the live action one, but I have seen the cartoon.
Can I tell you? So my friend was over, and we put it on, and a little Scottish dog walks out, and it's a female. And my friend was like, "Turn this shit off. I'm done with this shit." That's it. They turned that dog into a girl. Fuck that. Nope. And we put on Heavyweights. So, have you ever seen Heavyweights?
Yes. That's
I can't believe Disney made that. By the way.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
Yeah, we just talked about that. Of course.
We just talked about it.
Yeah. 101 Dalmatians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sword in the Stone.
Yes. Very weird movie, actually. Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, it is weird. Jungle Book.
Yeah.
All right. Aristocats.
Yes.
Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one you might think it's a different movie, but it's called The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
I think so, but there are a lot of Winnie the Pooh things. But
Yeah.
probably when I was young.
Okay. The Rescuers.
Yes. Also a great movie.
That's very good. The Fox and the Hound.
Mm-hmm.
The Black Cauldron.
Yes. Another weird one.
Yeah, that one is great. The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh yes, I love the Grace Mountain.
Yeah, I saw that in theaters actually.
That's a good one.
Oliver and Company.
Yes.
The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
The Rescuers Down Under.
Yes.
Wow, you have a good batting average here. Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
Lion King.
Yeah.
Pocahontas.
Yep.
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah. I love that one too.
Hercules.
Yeah, Hercules is great. I also rewatched that one recently and was like, this movie is amazing.
James Woods is awesome in that. I just wish he wouldn't be such an asshole on Twitter. Like, just calm down a little bit. It's like, everybody likes you. Like, everybody. No, I've never heard anyone not like James Woods until he got a Twitter. But anyway, Mulan.
Yes.
Okay, Tarzan.
Yes.
Fantasia 2000.
Yep.
Dinosaur.
Yeah.
All right. Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, I love that movie too. It's funny.
Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
Yes.
Okay. Lilo and Stitch.
Yes.
Okay. Treasure Planet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Brother Bear.
I may have not seen Brother Bear.
That's a weird one. Not a lot of people have seen it. Joaquin Phoenix is the lead. It's very strange. Home on the Range.
Yes.
Okay. Chicken Little.
Yes.
Meet the Robinsons.
Yes.
Bolt.
No, never saw Bolt.
Okay, you didn't miss much. The Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
Okay, and now we're up to Tangled. Wow, you have a really good. You know what? We only have 9 more movies. I'm just gonna ask you since we're Winnie the Pooh from 2011. No.
I don't know.
The
Maybe
one thing
not.
I have a weird stand-up connection to that movie. When I was buying it at Best Buy from my mom, I got the call that Patrice O'Neal had died. So isn't that a weird connection to like stand-up?
Yeah, it is.
So that movie always reminds me of Patrice O'Neal. Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, I love Wreck-It Ralph. Very funny.
Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Big Hero 6.
Yes, that was also a great movie that I only recently saw, and I texted like a bunch of people about it. I was like, "This movie's great."
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like some shitty like Disney version of a Marvel film, and then like it was about losing your brother, and it was really fucking good.
It's really. I was trying to figure out why that movie didn't do as well as it should have, and my one friend's theory is that the name is so stupid.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
was like, "You're right. The name
I-
is stupid."
I think people thought it was like a kiddie version of like the Avengers or something, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
they
but it
probably,
really is a great superhero movie. It's really fantastic.
it's all amazing. Zootopia.
Yeah, that movie is so good about like cultural appropriation. It's ridiculous.
That movie's incredible. Moana,
Yes.
Ralph Breaks the Internet,
Yes.
and Frozen 2.
Yeah.
Okay, that last one was like whatever. Oh, wow, so you almost
most
are
of them,
there.
yes. Yeah.
You've seen a ton. Holy shit. Okay, so let's get to the main event. We're gonna talk now about Tangled. Have you seen Tangled before we did this podcast?
I saw it for the first time last year, I think, when I had acquired my sister's Disney Plus password and I was kind of going through some things I hadn't seen. And my sister and other people told me how good it was, but I also was kind of like, oh, it's gonna be the kind of the same old like princess stuff, whatever. But as I was watching it the first time, I like kept like texting my sister how good it was. I was like, "This is so good." I was like, "This is so good." And she was like, "Yeah, I know. I've been telling you this, but I don't really take my sister's recommendations seriously because she likes a lot of dumb shit."
Yeah.
But she was not wrong when she said Tangled was great.
This was good. This was like sometimes I feel like Disney kind of like wants to not be Disney. And what I mean by that is they make movies like Atlantis and Brother Bear, which are not like their typical movies, and they're like trying to go in like more action. They try to do more action. They try to get like really silly comedy. Like I thought like Chicken Little was like almost like an open mic. You know, like they had like fart jokes and everything. But this felt like Disney finally going back to like what people really like about their movies.
Mm-hmm.
This
yeah,
film.
I agree with that.
But like kind of like with like because they had Pixar, like for so many years I feel like they had Pixar envy. Because Pixar was just
Pixar, I mean, they're just aces all around. They just
throw
out aces like it looks like their job. They're like, here's another ace, and here's another ace.
Well, it's just so funny because I watched WALL-E and I couldn't believe that WALL-E came out the same year as Bolt. It's because Bolt is like such a goofy kids movie, and WALL-E is like a piece of art.
Yeah, WALL-E is tremendous.
Yeah, and I feel like they were constantly trying to play catch up to Pixar, and even after they bought them, they still like were kind of jealous of them. And now I feel like this movie is where they finally mesh up like the Pixar sensibilities with the Disney sensibilities.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, the plot, if you haven't seen it, it's basically the story of Rapunzel.
Mm-hmm.
This girl has magical hair. This witch kidnaps her, keeps her up in a tower, and plays with her hair. Here's the weird thing about the mom and Rapunzel relationship. I wanted to get your opinion. When I first watched the movie, I thought the mom actually secretly kind of cared for Rapunzel, and Rapunzel cared for her. But on the second viewing, I get the sense they both don't fucking like each other. What did you kind of get out of there?
I think Rapunzel cares for her mom until she realizes what she is. And I think that's kind of, it's funny because like we as a society get very, very testy when you say bad things about moms. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, you know Brian McFadden is a comedian, really good friend of mine. We're both like really into psychology. We were discussing the movie The Joker, which I know you've seen, and that's a great movie, obviously. And people kept saying about that movie, like, oh, society made him a bad guy, made him do all these things. And Brian was like, he's like, I don't know. He's like, I feel like I watch it different. He's like, it was the mom. Like, the mom was the reason, like, he became what he was. But for whatever reason, like, when you start, like, talking that shit about moms, like, our society really pushes back on that. But yeah, I think she did love her until she realized, like, oh, you've just been, you don't care about it. I'm not first in your life, even remotely. Like, you took me from my real family. So I didn't think the witch mom really cared for her at all. It was all about her magic hair and keeping her young, which is also a very common theme in Disney movies. Where it's just like, there is some woman who will do anything to stay young looking.
Oh, Ursula, or get hot like Ursula.
Yeah, Ursula. Yeah, it's Snow White. It's like they will do anything at all costs.
They will murder.
Great telling of women, but
that is true. The female villains always are like, I gotta stay hot. Yeah,
it's like youth envy. It's
even Maleficent. Yeah, they're all like kind of like. Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
And so she's in the tower. She tries to leave because every birthday, her parents, like the king and queen, put up like these lanterns. Now, here's the crazy thing. I don't know if you noticed this, but do you know what the land is called? Like her little kingdom?
It's Corona.
It's called Corona, and she's in quarantine, and no one will let her out.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
I know, it is weird, yeah. It was like, oh, well, Corona, I guess, means sun, right? Or ring of sun or something like that.
Is that what it means? I always just thought like I'm Mexican.
Like,
I thought the Mexicans just made up the word for beer. I don't know.
No, it's something to do with sun.
So why did they call COVID Corona?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's really weird. Like, who came up with, like, if I was the head of the Corona Beer Company, I'd be like, you called it anything else?
Right.
Like, why is this called Corona? But yeah, I thought that was strange. Like, that, I mean, I think there's got to be a YouTube video where some guy in his basement is like, Disney planned COVID. If you watch
Tangled, I'm sure. They were like, look at all these signs, and they go through. There was once a YouTube video about how the Muppets predicted 9/11.
Well, no, there's a video with that Back to the Future predicted 9/11.
Okay, the Muppets one, like, it's pretty good actually. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, whoever took the time to like go through these movies and like string along these things, but it was very entertaining, and it wasn't completely unconvincing, to be honest with you. At some point, I was like, wow, this person a lot of thinking on the Muppets.
Yeah, there's a couple of other. I listened to a podcast, and some guy brought up something that all these movies like predicted this thing, and I forget what it was, but it was like a bunch of movies from the 70s predicted like Barack Obama or something. I forget what it was, but he had like point, and I'm like, oh, okay. But then I don't know. It's just I guess you could say Mother Gothel is the Democrats who want you to stay in, and Flynn is the Republican who wants you just to enjoy your life.
Something about that circle, right, where it's like, does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? That type of like circle, and it's like, who knows?
Yeah.
But I do like also Entangled, where the love interest protagonist is not a prince. He, in a way, he's a scoundrel. He's almost a bad guy. He's a thief. And he's super handsome and charming, and kind of knows it, and is a little bit narcissistic about it. Yeah, of course, obviously they end up falling for each other in the end. But I did like their kind of their dynamic throughout the movie.
Yeah, they're kind of adversarial. I liked the bar they went to, where it was like basically like a medieval bikers bar. So he breaks into the tower, she captures him, then he agrees to like take her out to see the world. To get rid of her, he brings her to basically like a medieval biker bar. And it turns out that all like these tough guys are actually like, big wimps and losers, and they start doing poetry and singing and everything like that, which I thought was good. That was kind of a fun scene.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was good too.
Yeah.
Because it is true. Like, I mean, a lot of the times, like, biker guys with tattoos that look really rough are so nice. It's just like, they're like, you're really so intimidated by it, and we've probably seen a lot of this because we're comedians.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh my, like sometimes you judge an audience very heavily before you go on stage, and a lot of times the opposite is true.
Oh yeah, the most dangerous person in the audience isn't a person with tattoos and like piercings.
No, it's usually a woman my age.
I was about to say that. It's either a soccer mom or a girl your age that has a blog who's like can't wait.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I'm like, oh god. Don't I know?
Actually, probably Rapunzel's probably the most dangerous person at that bar if you really think about it. But yeah, and then the other thing I can't tell if I liked this or I didn't. The first time I saw the movie, I didn't like him, but now I do. The horse does not get along with Flynn, and the horse is kind of like a badass horse. He does like karate and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you like the horse?
I don't know. I feel like maybe I was kind of indifferent towards the horse altogether.
Yeah, I kind of thought like, why can't he just be a horse? I didn't like the fact that he was like doing karate.
He had like a human personality. I do like the chameleon a lot, though. The chameleon is almost like cool. He's almost like a silent Jiminy Cricket. He kind of like is this conscious role, but he doesn't really talk. He just makes these really cute expressions.
Yeah, he's cool. I wound up liking the mom a lot, which is my only problem with the movie is I kind of wish. I just can't imagine if you lived with someone for 18 years, especially like a child, and you raised the child, and you got to see the child like walk. You taught the child how to walk. You have no empathy towards it. I just kind of felt like it would have been cool if at the end of the movie the witch was like, I kind of like this girl. And I know, like, I'm not really her mom, and I've been using her all these years, but I kind of actually don't want her to get hurt, and I don't want her to, and I kind of want to be her real mom. I kind of, because it just is like, I don't know, I couldn't.
It also makes it, even though it raises the empathy, it also makes it a little bit creepier, too, in a way. Where
well, it would also be the at the end, it would have been, like, if the mom actually, like, oh, wait, you do care for me, and Flynn cares for her. It would have been like sadder for her, or it would have been like even like maybe like the mom sacrifices herself so she can go live her life with her real parents. But it was just.
Have you ever seen Into the Woods, the play?
No.
Okay, well, Into the Woods is kind of like a collaboration of all different fairy tales, and they do have Rapunzel in it. And the same type of thing. There's the witch, and she's keeping Rapunzel up in the tower, and she's singing, and then that's how she gets discovered. But the mother, who's also a witch in that, is kind of a psychopath and is keeping the daughter away from everything, but she does really love her in that.
Okay.
So it's like, it's almost creepier, actually, in a way, because you're like, oh, this person loves this thing so much, is like smothering it.
Yeah, you're right. It would have been made creepier and more of a conflict if Rapunzel.
A little bit more like depth, a little bit more layers.
Yeah, because Rapunzel just at the end is like, oh, you don't care about me, and like also that would make me depressed if like. Wait a minute, my mom is not my mom. Like, I'm 18 years old, but my parents are not my parents, and they don't care about me, and they were just using a line the whole entire time. And nothing I did endeared them to me. Nothing. They were pretending the entire time, like, that they were proud of me. That,
Right.
I would still be in therapy about that. I just would have been like, oh, whatever, I found my real parents.
Yeah, she's going to have to go to a lot of therapy.
Yeah, I just don't, she kind of just
brushes it off.
I don't think they're
therapists in Corona, but maybe the chameleon will be the therapist.
Yeah, because, so she catches up to them, and she tries to convince her that Flynn's not into her, and she kind of tells her that she's ugly, that no guy would like her.
She's a cartoon, but she's cute, obviously.
Yeah, she's, like, telling her that she's not attractive, and I'm like, wow, it was, really, I don't know, I just was, like, maybe I didn't pay a lot of attention the first time I saw the movie, but, like, this second time around, I'm like, wow, this woman really has no empathy or likes this kid, and I kind of think it would have been a better movie if they had more of a connection.
Right.
But I did like
it. I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did like it. What did you think of the music?
I'm like a little bit over musicals at this point of my life. But it's so funny. I was thinking the other day how I almost wish they like Disney Plus would do would have the regular version of movies and then the version where they skip musical numbers.
Wow, these movies would be like a half hour long then.
But the music's not bad, and obviously Mandy Moore is a good singer. But yeah, sometimes when I rewatch some of these Disney movies, I'm like, oh, I could skip this musical number.
Yeah, I wasn't. This is written by a guy who did Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, and he's usually like nails it. And I kind of thought the songs were kind of weak this time around.
There's no songs in this that I want to listen to outside of the movie.
Yeah.
Like Frozen has a couple songs that are like really good to listen to outside of the movie. I mean, like Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, certainly, Elton John. So there are certain movies, like certain Disney movies, you're like, oh no, like these are songs that I like was just a good song. I like listening to it. There's no standout song in Tangled for me where I'll be like,
No.
I'm gonna jam to this in my car right now.
You know
They're
what?
not like they're not bad. You know, they're
No,
they're fine. Like
no,
this,
they served the plot, but like I don't know. I don't like. One that stayed in my head today was Mother Knows Best. That kind of was just in my head today because I watched it when I woke
yeah.
up, and then I went to the park with my dog. So that's still in my head right now. But the others, like, I completely forgot she sang that song, to Flynn on the boat. I forgot they even had that song.
Yeah, I forgot that song too.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is a whole other love song. You know what's? I hated Frozen 2. I hated Frozen. Did you like Frozen 2?
I did like Frozen too.
I
Yeah.
couldn't take it. I felt like I was watching an episode of Star Trek. Like with all the mythology and if you got to go here I'm like, how are kids following this? Like it went deep and like the boat went here and you got to go
it
to
was
this.
pretty deep and dark. It went deep and dark. That movie.
Yeah, I don't know, and I also felt like the movie needed a villain. Like it needed like a villain, like I know their grandfather was the villain, but the song that stayed in my head with that movie, and I listened to it. I listened to the Weezer version when I'm like going for my walks and doing exercises. Lost in the Woods. I really like that one.
Yeah, that song is great. That's the best song in the Frozen 2. And I think
Yeah.
Weezer did a cover of it.
Weezer does a cover of it. It's during the closing credits, but it's also if you can listen to it on Spotify. Weezer did a version of it, and it's really good.
Cool.
And that guy, I didn't realize the guy. Did you see Hamilton?
I haven't, but he's in Hamilton. He was the original cast of Hamilton.
Yeah, the guy.
And he also is in Mindhunter as the serial killer.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Wow, he's really
Yeah,
all
the
over
guy
the
has
place.
a ridiculous bandwidth of acting. But yeah,
Well,
oh my god, Mindhunter is amazing.
Oh, I gotta see that. He also has the song. He also has the best song in Hamilton.
Really?
Yeah, I remember like I was watching it with a couple of my friends. Like this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and then he shows up and like, oh, it's good again, and okay, it finally got good. And then I didn't realize that he's had the best song in Frozen 2 and Hamilton. So
I confess, I'm gonna watch Hamilton, but I started watching and I turned it off. Not because I disliked it, but because I was like, oh, this needs to be seen live. That's how, like, I was like 10 minutes in and I was like, this is a live performance. And like, I need it to be
I don't know when I sat through. I just think it's kind of weird, like, to have a black guy dress up like Prince play Thomas Jefferson. It's like it would kind of be like having Donald Rumsfeld, like getting like Lil Wayne to play Donald Rumsfeld in a play about like 9/11. You know what I mean? Like, it's like.
I see what you're saying, but I still think that like the energy of that, because even I think like some of the musicals that I loved, if I saw them on film first, like that way, I don't think it would resonate so much. Like Les Mis is my favorite musical, Phantom of the Opera, close second, Wicked, I love. Like if I saw any of those for the first time on film like that, I don't know that I would be so enchanted by it.
Yeah, you definitely notice it's a play.
Like stand-up comedy is better live too. I mean, even the great ones who have amazing specials. There's the only stand-up comedian who might be better on TV than live would be Stephen Wright, because of I think the type of comic that he is. But because he's like such a TV comic. But otherwise, generally speaking, like I mean, obviously I'm married to live performance at this point in my life, so I'm very much like. But I will end up watching Hamilton all the way through. But that was honestly But then I realized that Broadway's not going to be open. Who knows what? So who knows?
Yeah, we're never going to see Hamilton live again. This is you're going to see Hamilton. I prefer live stand-up more so than I can't watch. I watched Louis C.K.'s new special because when are we ever going to see him again in the real world? But I really can't watch Netflix specials or Amazon or whatever. I can't watch specials. It just I don't enjoy it. I enjoy more seeing people live than.
I usually do. I haven't really watched any specials lately, but just because like I'm just sad about comedy in general. So then like even when it's good, it like makes me sad because I'm like I like miss it. I miss like the potential career things and even my like sadness for my other comedy friends who are also struggling. Like it just bums me out.
Yeah.
I'm like this is sad.
Well, I watch like there's a lot like I watched Cheers the other day. In the first episode, and I was like, "Oh, this is a sci-fi show now. This is like Star Trek. Like nothing that happens in Cheers could happen nowadays. Like they're all in a bar. They're sitting around all day in a bar. Like it's just like this show can't exist in 2020. It's like insane to me. And I just thought to myself, like, imagine if you pitched what's going on in the world. Imagine if you walked in the writer's room in like 1986 and like pitched this for a storyline in Cheers. Like, all right, what if Donald Trump's the president and there's this deadly virus and we have to close all the bars and then Sam has to have like outdoor seating and Norm is going to be outdoors because of this virus with a mask on. And I just, you would get fired and they probably would also call a doctor to treat you for mental problems. If you pitched what's happening on Cheers, and it got me depressed to think about that. Like you could, you know what I mean?
Right. It is weird too because I'm a screenwriter. I pitched a couple of shows. Nothing has sold at this point in my life, and I've been trying to work on some other treatments and stuff. And I'm not a really political person in my comedy or my writing by any means, and I haven't written anything that like takes place in a pandemic world or anything like that. Everything's more like modern and current. But I'm like, I wonder at what point they're going to be like, well, we need shows that take place while the pandemic is happening, like with masks and stuff, or people just going to be like, I don't want to be reminded about that time at all. Like, we don't want anything like that.
Well, I think like, well, you know, like I do a wrestling podcast now, and I was watching Raw last night, and they had a commercial for Denny's where they're kind of acting like whatever, you know, hey, you know what's normal to us? Dinner at Denny's, and we're still going to be open, and it's a bunch of people outside eating Denny's. And I'm like, this kind of depresses me more that they're kind of downplaying the virus. Right. You know, like they're kind of being like, whatever, let's just keep eating at Denny's.
There's no winning scenario in that case. You know, it's just kind of going to be like,
well, like, like to your question, like, are they going to run in the pandemic? They were in the middle of did you ever watch the show Supernatural?
Not really, no.
Okay, me neither, but I started watching it because it's been on for 15 years. And it's them fighting demons and shit. But they were about to film the last like 6 episodes when they got shut down for the pandemic. And right now the actors are in quarantine because they're going to go finish it up because they only have 6 episodes and they can move on with their lives. And they rewrote the scripts to include the pandemic. And that to me is crazy because this is a world and a show where they've been fighting like demons, and monsters, and ghosts, and zombies, and all sorts of shit. And now, like, right at the very, very end, they're going to incorporate, like, a pandemic, which they clearly can't fight because science-based. It's not, but that's so funny to me, like, that this show has to write in that they have to be distant. Like, while they're fighting monsters, they have to be distant from each other and wear masks.
Yeah.
And that's like, just wild to me. But, yeah, I guess, at a certain point, I think every show's going to have to mention it. But here's the other thing. How many shows in the future are going to use the pandemic as like a character's motivation, whether like a villain or a hero?
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely. I mean, there's no way at this point it's not going to shape everybody's life in some way, shape, or form. And then even think about the younger generation who has to like, are they going to school or going to be pulled back out? Like their whole education is going to be completely redefined, and how they're going to end up their psyche through this. It's going to be really interesting as well. And it's like, if they don't know anybody who died of coronavirus, it won't be particularly traumatizing. But if some of them do have people who passed away from it, then like it's going to be the worst thing ever. Like they're going to probably have like riddled with hypochondriac problems and stuff. So it's certainly this whole thing is just going to shift the whole course of everything.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's why and that's why I'm glad that I'm mainly dealing with Disney films and watching Godzilla films and stuff.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of cartoons, and I'm like, you know my stand-up style, you kind of know me, like I'm very kind of a macabre, like brooding person, and I love like depressing dark mysteries and fucked up movies about killers and all this stuff. And I have been watching so much like lighthearted Disney movies, rewatching tons of Simpsons, because I'm at the point where like I'm so afraid and almost fragile with like depressing things. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, I can't watch this. I can't take it.
I watch this channel. I leave it on. It's called Antenna TV. Do you have a digital antenna at your house, or you have cable?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, there's a channel called Antenna TV that's it's all old sitcoms, like sitcoms from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, the 50s. And I like it because the commercials are like just old people commercials. So it's like, stay away from talcum powder. And have you fallen? We can sue the company that made your staircase. And like commercials and like none of the commercials reference COVID or Corona. So I almost feel like I'm in this fantasy world where it never happened. And I'm just watching old sitcoms. So that's what I've been doing. You're into horror movies too, right?
Yeah, I have a podcast, Scary Monsters podcast, with my writing partner Nick Griffin, and we cover a horror movie every week rather.
Oh wow! So how's that going?
It's going good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, horror is a kind of a funny genre because there's so much bad horror out there. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
there's just so much bad horror out there.
Mm-hmm.
But we found some. I mean, we did a lot of classics, but we found some niche, like good ones too. It's funny. Like I was such a horror fan growing up, and even my taste in horror has shifted quite a bit. Because I used to like slashers more when I was younger. But thrillers still, I probably still like thrillers the most, but now I even like kind of lean a little bit more like towards some like artsy weird stuff, I guess. Than your more like classic thrillers and stuff. But I also like, I think I'm more sci-fi than horror at this point in my life. I maybe always was more sci-fi than horror, but I love sci-fi movies. And
Oh, okay. Did you ever see the movie Life Force?
no.
That's a
Like,
sci-fi
Life-
horror movie. It's about a space vampire.
Life
Any-
Force.
Yeah, it's a young Patrick Stewart with hair is in it.
Oh.
So that's interesting. It's about a space vampire. It's pretty ambitious, and I watched it with my friend the other day. And also another good sci-fi horror film is, and it's with Nicolas Cage, The Color of Space. Did you see that recently?
No.
That one is.
I'm probably like initially hesitant to watch anything with Nicolas Cage, even though sometimes he is great in movies, but generally speaking, he annoys me.
Well, he is full Nicolas Cage, but it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. But also Chong from Cheech and Chong is in it. So it's it's good though. It's about an alien crash landing on this farm. The family goes crazy. It's definitely good.
Ooh.
I think you'll like it. It's a dark movie. But yeah, what would you? Let's get back to Tangled real quick. What would you say is your favorite character in the film?
Is it allowed to be the chameleon? Can I pick
it is
the
allowed.
chameleon?
It's allowed to be the chameleon.
I just want that chameleon like in my life, on my shoulder, giving fists to people that I should punch in the face and giving thumbs up when something good is happening.
And have you ever seen? I think it's on Disney Plus. Did you watch the animated series that continue the story?
No, and I've been contemplating watching it. Have you watched it? Is it worth a watch?
I haven't watched it, but I heard a lot of good things. Like people say it like really expands upon the movie, and I was like, I'll watch it if the mom comes back to life, because I don't know why I'm such a big. She doesn't come back to life, but there is some shit connected to it. But there's like a reason why the girl's hair has magical powers. There's like a whole backstory, kind of like they did with Frozen, and like there's it's about her and the parents connecting because they don't know her and she's 18,
right?
And
yeah.
So like they like it's about them like developing a real relationship, and they said it really expands upon the movie's mythology. So I do. Here's the funny thing: Jeff Ross is one of the voices on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and he replaced someone who got accused of sleeping with a kid. I forget who the actor was. Yeah.
Oh, the irony.
Chris D'Elia is going to be in Tangled 3, so that's nice. He plays Flynn's dad or something. I don't know. Flynn's weird brother. But Jeff Ross was one of the main characters in season 2 or something. So I mean.
Yeah, I was thinking about watching that. I was like, maybe I should watch this, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I think at some point I will, because that movie is definitely good enough.
Yeah, it's 2D animation. People say it's good. I mean, and all in all, I think Tangled. I think Tangled's gonna be. I think Tangled was a good step in the right direction. It's not as powerful as Frozen. I think Frozen is really when Disney like really cemented. And that was a whole new crew. That woman now is the head of the animation department, the woman who directed Frozen.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not surprised, and like she deserves it. I mean,
yeah.
That movie is so good. I saw the movie by myself in theaters. I was the only person in the movie theater.
Oh wow!
And I had not heard "Let It Go" before I had seen it. And when she started singing it, I think I was audibly like, "This is amazing." I was like, "This is gonna be the biggest thing." And Idina Menzel, of course, I knew from Broadway, so I was like happy when she landed a role in a Disney movie to sing. But yeah, I think Frozen is excellent. It's funny, like there's good jokes throughout it. I'm such a sucker for things with good jokes. That's the thing. Like if they're finding a Disney movie or anything that has good jokes throughout it, I'm like, yes, this is fun about it.
Yeah, Frozen's good. Wreck-It Ralph is great too. But I feel like this movie like kind of like was a course correct. And then from there, they've just been on a hot streak since. I kind of think Frozen 2 sucks. I know you like it. But everything up until Frozen 2 is like, I'm not a big fan of Moana either, but I get like kids go crazy for it. Like, and that's all that matters to the company's bottom line. But every movie has been pretty good since this movie that's come out from Disney Animation.
Yeah, and even all the Marvel stuff that have come out under Disney's wing, or the Star Wars stuff come out under Disney's wing, like,
and the Pixar stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, people like shit on Disney all day. I'm like, dude, they've produced and they produce well. Like, I don't know where they're like constantly getting these artists from, but I'm almost always like expecting for them to drop the ball, and then they just don't. I'm like, they just don't drop the ball, guys. They're good at this. They're really good at this.
I think what they realized, I think every now and then they would try to make a Disney film for boys, like whether it was Atlantis or Treasure Planet. And I think what they realized,
those ones are kind of flops, yeah.
Yeah, I think what they realized, like the animated films kind of have to be like, I don't want to say more girlish, but more than like the musical whimsy side. And let's just buy Marvel Comics and Star Wars, and that's where we'll get our action film money.
Right.
Yeah, because once they got Marvel, these films became a lot more focused. And I think they were like, Pixar's going to make the artsy films are going to get us Oscars, but we're going to make the movies that just make people feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people need that and love that. They want the stuff that makes them feel good. Probably now more than ever.
Yeah, probably. Have you seen any of the live action remakes of these movies? Those are the pits.
I did not see Cinderella, and I turned off Lady and the Tramp. Well, the live action Jungle Book is amazing.
Oh, I didn't see that one yet.
Oh
That's
my
good.
God, yeah. I don't even want to hype it up. That one is so good. The live action Beauty and the Beast I thought was good, and Aladdin I thought Aladdin, they did kind of their own. I was kind of mad initially when I heard about it because the original one is so good. It's filled with so many good jokes. But they kind of do their own thing, and I think it works. I liked the live action.
I liked it because of the actors who played Aladdin and Jasmine, particularly the girl who plays Jasmine. I think
But
I don't know.
She knocks out of the park. She's excellent.
Yeah, I don't know how she's not a bigger star. She was in Charlie's Angels, and that bombed. Did you see that version of Charlie's Angels? The one that just came out?
I didn't watch that one. No.
I tried to watch a little bit of it. It was on this streaming service, and Kristen Stewart was like so bad in the opening scene. I'm just like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. But I wanted to see it for her because she's so good in this. But the problem with the new Aladdin was, I just miss Robin Williams and Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, they're so funny, but at least they didn't try to be them. Did
you hear
honestly, I thought Will Smith was great. Like, he did his own thing with Genie, and I thought it worked really well because you can't replace Robin Williams in that scenario. He's such a tremendous force in that movie.
Did you hear why they didn't cast Gilbert Gottfried? Because somebody said, why did you just cast Gilbert Gottfried? He literally just has to record from his house. And they're like, it just would have been a little bit too unrealistic to have a parrot like talking in a Jewish accent. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's a carpet and a genie and a magical staff.
That's where you're drawing the line.
But a Jewish parrot is like, whoa, this is not realistic anymore. This is
Right. Yeah, no, he is so classic. And I remember the first time I met Gilbert Gottfried, I worked open for him, and it's so funny, like the generation gap, because I was so excited because he was in Aladdin. I mean, he has this like amazing, like this ridiculous fucking career with all these other things he's done. It was like, no, the only thing that really matters to me ever, like if I still had the Aladdin VHS tape, I would have brought it and like.
Yeah, I've seen people bring in Aladdin, Problem Child for him to sign.
Oh, I'm sure.
He was in some other movie that I'm forgetting, but it was a pretty big movie. He's just been, I think most of his money is from Aladdin. I think once he revealed to someone 90% of like his fortunes from that movie and all the cartoons and figures and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's a really odd dude. He's like probably smaller than me, and he's just so like timid and soft spoken. He's just
In real
complete
life.
opposite of what he is on stage. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, but he's a really he stays to himself, but he's not a dick. Some comedians are like dicks and stay to themselves, but he's not a dick. He's pretty cool.
No, he's not a dick. He's definitely odd. He's an odd dude, but he's not a dick.
Yeah. No, there's some people who are odd and dicks, and you're like, okay, great, thanks. Thanks for being here. Lori, where can people find you on social media?
My Twitter handle is at Lori Palminteri. My Instagram is different. It's Go See Lori, which I made because I figured Palminteri is kind of hard for people to spell. You can find me on Facebook. I put up my Scary Monsters podcast every week. I have a blog I put up every week, and eventually when shows come back more, I'll have shows that I'll
Yeah. Do you think? I kind of think like it's just going to be a wrap once November, December hits, and then we're just have to wait till the spring. Do you think that, or do you think people are going to roll the dice and have indoor shows?
No, I think you're right. I think things are going to close up even more come fall, and that's also why I'm kind of like let the people run amok now, like almost like kids who like need recess. It's like I'm like, no, let everybody run amok for the next month or whatever, because we're going to be locked back in. And I have depression, but it's problems anyway, but like seasonal depression. November is like a notoriously rough month for me, like even if things are fine.
Oh, really? Why's that?
I think it gets darker and colder, and like I'm a really kind of an outdoorsy person. I hate the cold. And I think I really start like questioning my year at that point, and I'm very hard on myself. So I like crumble like almost every November and have like a really bad meltdown. So like this year I'm like my parents live in Florida, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna like, especially if we're all locked down here, I'm like, I might go down there for the whole month of November.
That's a good idea. I used to get you know what, that is true. When the sun gets darker, when around the time of year when the sun goes down at 4:00, I feel like shit because I feel like my day's done. Yes. And it's like I didn't get anything done yet. Like, because right now I still feel like I have a whole day ahead of me because the sun's still out. But I kind of like November. I kind of like September, October, November, December a little bit more. I don't know why.
I like October too. In November, that's when it seeps in.
Yeah, it seeps in for me like Christmas time now, because I'm more alone now during Christmas, and that's when I kind of feel like, I didn't get anything done this year and stuff. That's kind of like, let me ask you this, because you brought up a good point, because I lately, like, I'll log on to Instagram and I'll see comedians doing sketches, and they're corny sketches, like the religious comedian doing like a Bass Pro Shop sketch where he's like talking to the equipment. But I see like he has like 200,000 views, and I start getting depressed. Like, I'm not doing any sketches. I'm not really being that funny on social media. Do you ever get depressed that you're not putting out enough content on social media or anything?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't like. I'm not like some things like there's like, what's the balance between quality and quantity, right?
Yes.
Like, people are constantly throwing stuff up, but it's so bad. Like it's just like shit, And I'm like, I want to take some time for this. And I'm like a little bit more like, it will take me so long to put something up, where it's like, I'm like, no, this is not good either. Like I don't know what the line is between quality and quantity as far as creating content, but you do have to constantly create stuff and at some point just put stuff out there. But yeah, sometimes they're like talented people or friends of mine, and even sometimes I want to be like, yo, you might want to like,
oh yeah, well, like,
work a little harder before you put this stuff out there.
Some of the sketches are really bad, and then I'll see like the comments and people love them, and I'm like, am I like out of touch with what people think is funny? Because I would just never put this out. Like if I like if that was my sketch, I'd be like, we can't put this out, and it has like 1 million views, and everyone's sharing it, and they love it, and I don't know. It's just sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm not putting enough stuff out there, but then I'm like, you know what? I like doing this Disney podcast. I like doing my other stuff. And I'm writing a movie script. I'm actually writing a slasher film that takes place in New York City the New York comedy scene.
Oh yeah, I saw you post about that on Facebook. Yeah, let me know if you need any script assistance. That's
definitely.
That's what I ended up switching my major to in college. I went from journalism to screenwriting, and that was my degree.
Well, right now
Put a lot of money on that.
I'm having a little bit of trouble because spoiler alert. I'm in. So someone got killed in the green room of Caroline's. So they shut down all the comedy clubs. So there's a montage of comedians trying to figure out ways to still do shows, and it's like a montage, like a musical montage of like all these different comedy podcasts accusing comedians in the scene of being the killer because you don't know who the killer is in the movie. And I'm kind of having a rough part writing in the montage because like I'm using real comics that I know for certain characters because I'm like I could just change the name later, but at least I know in my head who I would cast. Like, you know, if I can't get Luis Gomez, cast someone who's like Luis Gomez. But yeah, I'm having a hard time with the dialogue of comedians on podcasts of accusing other comedians. I think everyone is accusing everyone of being a killer.
Yeah, montage scenes are a little bit tricky to write, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, that's a fun idea.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean, I'm enjoying it, and I had a couple of people read it who are comedians and are like, yeah, this is really good, and I'm like, is it not funny enough? Because you know, it's kind of serious because the main characters are depressed that their careers are going nowhere, and then you have murder on top of that. And people are like, no, it's good. It's good. If it was too funny, it would take away from the horror. Because I kind of wanted to be a mixture of like the 80s slashers and Crashing, a mix of those two worlds together. So
I wouldn't worry too much about it making it funny because that's one of those like you just want to because you could really like block up your creative like gears if you're like get stuck in that kind of stuff because that's the type of stuff you go back through when you punch up and then
just get the story out.
You do a read through with some comedians and you hear it out loud and then like you punch it up like that's honestly to me that's the fun part is it's like the structure and shit is over and now I could go in and joke right like that's my wheelhouse so I like love it when I get to that point.
Okay, that's because the other thing I'm not doing is when I get to the stand-up scenes I'm not writing in the stand-up because I would in other words so I'm like you know I don't know like Laurie Palminteri's on you're not in the script I'm just using an example. Laurie Palminteri's on stage and she's killing. But I don't write out what you say because it's like, well, I'm not going to write out their voice as a performer.
Yeah. So you get cast and
Yeah, I'd rather it be like the real stand-up if I cast real comedians. Or like, you know, like I think I do have Artie Fuqua at one point hosting a show. Artie Fuqua is hosting, he's destroying. I would just have him do his stuff. Why would I write a joke for him in this script?
Right.
When also it's also in the background of what's happening in the other room. But, you know what I mean? So... Yeah, but that's my one thing. I'm not writing out what the comics are saying on stage because I would prefer that's like natural and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, Laurie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, guys. This is our 50th episode. If you just, it's huge. I can't. Well, I mean, the big one is episode 52 because that'll be a whole year. But I really can't believe that I did 50 of these episodes. This is like crazy. But guys, if you like this podcast, and this is your first time listening, you just tuned in because you like Laurie, you like her podcast, you like Tangled, Mandy Moore, I don't know, anything about, I've done episodes from Snow White up until this film. Next week I'm doing Winnie the Pooh with Mike Keegan.
Nice.
You know him, yeah.
Yeah.
And so please subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Ray Coots, and follow the podcast, Coots' Disney Pod, for updates and stuff like that. Every week, me and another amazing comedian are breaking down Disney film and talking about the fact that our careers are probably over. So it's a great fun. When this podcast started, everybody was so optimistic about their future. And everyone's like, yeah, hopefully it'll come back in 3 years.
One day, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's been an interesting podcast because it's kind of like a review of the Disney films throughout the years and the end of stand-up comedy. Like we're tracing the end of an art form while going through the Disney catalog. So it's pretty interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Laurie, thank you so much for being on the show. I fucked up the ending. Laurie, thank you so much for being on the show. And guys, thank you for listening. Have a great day.